We're glad you could join us this hour. Welcome to Lunchtime Politics on Channels Television, and we're reaching you live from our global headquarters in Lagos. We apologize for starting behind schedule. As we start off, the Independent Electoral Commission has released the timetable and schedule of activities for the Edo and Ondo governorship elections, as the tenure of office for the governors of Edo and Ondo states is expected to come to an end on the 11th of November 2024 and 23rd of February 2025, respectively. In a statement by the National Commissioner and Chairman, Information and Voter Education Committee, Mr. Sam Olumekun, the timetable of the governorship election in Edo State will hold on Saturday, 21st of September 2024. Party primaries will hold from the 1st to the 24th of February 2024, while the submission of the list of nominated candidates via the online portal will start at 9 a.m. on March the 4th, 2024, and close at 6 p.m. on the 24th of March 2024. The final list of candidates will be published on the 23rd of April 2024, while campaigns in public by political parties commence on the 24th of April 2024 and ends 24 hours prior to Election Day on the 19th of September 2024. In Ondo State, however, the governorship election will hold on Saturday, the 16th of November 2024. Party primaries will hold from the 6th till the 27th of April 2024, while the submission of the list of nominated candidates via the online portal will start at 9 a.m. on April the 29th, 2024, and close at 6 p.m. on the 20th of May 2024. And the final list of candidates will be published on June the 18th, 2024, while campaigns in public by political parties commence on June the 19th, 2024, and ends 24 hours prior to Election Day on November the 14th, 2024. For more on the detailed timetable and schedule of activities for the two elections, look up the Commission's website and social media platforms. The Imo State Election Petitions Tribunal in Abuja is set to deliver judgment on two petitions filed against the election of Governor Francis Nwifuru Chukwumodi and his party, that's the PDP, and the second runners-up Bernard Odo and his party, the All Progressives Grand Alliance, APGA, are seeking Nwifuru's disqualification on the grounds of certificates forgery and ineligibility to stand for the election. In the March election, Governor Nwifuru polled a total of 199,131 votes across the 13 local government areas of the state to beat his closest rival, Dr. Chukwumodi of the People's Democratic Party, who scored 80,191 votes. The Independent National Electoral Commission declared Governor Nwifuru as winner of the election, which held on March 18, 2023. And in Gombe State, the Governorship Election Petition Court has struck out the petition filed by the African Democratic Congress, ADC, against the victory of Governor Inowa Yahaya and his deputy, Manasseh Daniel, of the APC. The ADC had challenged the declaration and return of Governor Yahaya on the basis of multiplicity and variations in the arrangement of names on the certificates of his deputy without accompanying affidavits, and hence rendered their ticket invalid. In its judgment, the court held that the matter is a pre-election issue and that the deputy governor met the requirement to stand for election. Reacting to the judgment, Governor Inowa Yahaya describes it as a victory for democracy and a resounding affirmation of the people's will and repose in the trust in his leadership. In Cross River State, the State Governorship Election Petition Court has struck out the suit filed by Professor Sandy Ono of the People's Democratic Party, challenging the election of Governor Basio II of the All Progressives Congress in the March 18, 2023 governorship poll. The tribunal struck out the petition for lacking in merit. Meanwhile, the governor says the tribunal verdict is a validation of the people's support expressed through the ballot. He was speaking on our political program, Politics Today.
At no time did I feel that we were threatened in any way, because My party and I believe elections are won in the field. And the results that came out of the field, in fact, we won in almost all the local governments. But they were able to come out with some results that were not BVAS compliance in terms of about 3 local governments or thereabout. So we won 15 out of 18. And we were ready to actually go head-to-head on the other 3 local governments that were remaining. But by the time we got there, they dropped the case, which was popular an election matter, and then moved to a pre-election matter, which of course, all of them have court pronouncements, almost all of it. So at no time was there any anxiety. We had known that this would come. And the victory of today, Kayode, I want to tell you, is actually a victory of the people. It's victory to cross variance. We give God the glory, and of course the credit goes to the courts, who have once more, the judiciary, who have once more demonstrated that they are the last hope of the common man. For me, in terms of a crossover, we are calling on the opposition to join us. I've always had open arms from the first day to today that, look, let us come together and build a strong and very crossover. And that's my message again today, that it is time to leave the courts and come to the table to see how we can move Cross River State forward.
And we have joining us to discuss the outcomes of the tribunal rulings in Lagos, Benue, Cross River, and Gombe states, Mr. Matthew Burka, a senior advocate of Nigeria. Mr. Burka, we're glad you could join us on Lunchtime Politics this hour. We'll have Mr. Burka subsequently or before the end of the bulletin when we're able to establish a clear audio signal through to him. The Ondo State House of Assembly has directed its team of lawyers to investigate the purported injunction secured by the Deputy Governor, Lucky Ayedatiwa, and report back to the Assembly. In a statement signed by the Speaker, Ondo State House of Assembly, Honorable Oladiji Adesomi, he warned that such judicial officer who might have abused his office in granting the unconstitutional ex parte injunction will be reported to the appropriate institutions for necessary disciplinary action. The Assembly further says that it would proceed with the legislative process to a logical conclusion, but in doing so will strictly follow the constitutional procedures, but will not compromise its sacred constitutional duty to hold elected public officers accountable, particularly where there's a prima facie allegation of corruption and abuse of power leveled against the deputy governor. And now to the economy. Before we return to politics, it's official. Olayemi Cardoso, former chairman of Citibank, is the governor of Nigeria's central bank. Mr. Cardoso and 4 deputy governor nominees, Mrs. Usoro, Mr. Mohammed Datijo, Mr. Philip Ikiazo, and Dr. Bala Bello were confirmed by the Senate on Tuesday. The lawmakers confirmed the Apex Bank chiefs after hours of screening during its resumed plenary after a 2-month recess. The new CBN boss, speaking during the screening, promised to address the foreign exchange rate of the naira, which has been giving many Nigerians a lot of concern.
On the issue of foreign exchange rate, which everybody's been talking about, and naturally is very worrisome to everybody, very, very worrisome. It goes without saying, quite frankly, that for the sort of country we want, we do need to have an exchange rate that is stable. And quite frankly, there are short and medium-term measures, but I would say something about the short-term measures, because that really is what bothers most people today, understandably. Number one, it is that of what I would term an operational issue. Right now, you have a situation where, and we all know this, we can argue about the figures, the numbers, but we are aware that there are unsettled obligations by the central bank. We are aware there are unsettled obligations. Whether it's 4 billion, 5 billion, 7 billion, I don't know. But definitely the immediate priority will be to be able to verify the authenticity and the extent of what is owed. And then, of course, Once we do that, we need to promptly find a way to take care of that. Number two, apart from the operational, there's one that is more system related. And that involves ensuring that we come up with rules that are open, that are transparent, and that any of the players in that business understands. Those that want to do business in Nigeria, they want to see that the coast is clear. And if they don't, they will continue to hold on to their money. So that's something that I want to share with you so that you will understand that this is the short-term measures are ones that will be very, very important to us, myself and the team. Once we get in, it's something we will address right away.
And I will return to politics as we have joining us Mr. Matthew Burka, a senior advocate of Nigeria, and we'll be focusing on the outcomes of the election petition tribunal rulings on cases in Lagos, Benue, and other states, amongst other issues bordering on the judiciary. Mr. Burka, thank you for joining us on Lunchtime Politics.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Yes. So let's start with your reaction to the tribunal cases in Lagos, Benue, Cross River, and Gombe State. What are some of your, deductions from these cases? Let's also add Kano, which also came out recently.
Well, thank you for the invitation. And I think it's an opportunity for me to speak on those cases. Some I was involved in, and others I was not. I just got to read about them in the papers. So I'll be able to speak to you only as it relates to those matters that I have personal knowledge of, because it will not be the right for me to speak on matters that on which I have not read the judgments of the court. I have not read the judgments of the tribunal in Lagos. I have not read the judgment of the tribunal in Cross River. For Benue, I was involved for the respondent, and for Gombe, I was also involved at the point at the commencement of the suit, so I know what the case of the petitioners is and the defense that was put on subsequently. Now, let me begin with that of Benue, which I was involved in completely from the beginning to the end as counsel to the APC that were declared winners of the election. Now, the case of Benue was such that the petitioners themselves were not contesting the scores that were declared by INEC. Their main concern, just like what you have in Gombe, was that they felt that the deputy governor, who was the deputy gubernatorial candidate at that time, declared to an affidavit, and their contention was that it was not declared at the place where he said he declared. He swore to an affidavit, and their contention was that he swore to that affidavit at a forum, which was different from where he claimed to have sworn it. That was their basic concern, and they filed a petition claiming that the deputy governor had presented forged certificate, hinging their contention on the provisions of the Constitution that forbids an individual from presenting forged certificate to INEC. And our contention and the contention of all the other respondents was simple. There was no such forgery, and there was no such issue that will warrant the disqualification of His Excellency, the governor of Benue State, who was given a popular mandate by the people of Benue State. So the tribunal went into the matter, looked at all the issues that were raised, and agreed with the respondent that the issue before the court were pre-election, number one, and that secondly, those issues had already been litigated upon by the same petitioners against the same respondent at the Federal High Court, and the court had dismissed that suit. So the principle of res judicata was invoked by the tribunal, and it was held that there has been a litigation on that point. There has been a determination of the issues. The petitioners could not bring it up again. So what we had in Benue was not a challenge of votes, because the margin between the two parties was too clear. The sitting governor defeated its opponent by a margin of over 250,000 votes. So even in open court, they said it, the petitioner said it clearly, that they were not in court to challenge the votes. They were not in court to challenge the qualification of His Excellency, the Governor of Benue State, Reverend Father Alia. They were only in court to challenge the qualification of the Deputy Governor, which according to them, they said he deposed to an affidavit in a forum that was different from where he claimed he deposed. So that was just the issue. And in open court, they said that they were not challenging his educational qualification. So in other words, they were saying he did not present any forged educational certificate. Their only contention was as it relates to the Form EC9, the venue for the deposition of the Form EC9. That was just the issue. And the tribunal determined the issue in favor of the respondent and affirmed the return of Reverend Father Dr. Alia as the duly elected governor of Ondo State.
Mr. Burka, regardless of the contention of the petitioners, the worry of Nigerians, particularly of the opposition, is that the ruling of the tribunals, the rulings, are going in a particular direction, and hence Nigeria appears to be turning into a one-party state. Is this mere political sentiment, or does it call for serious concern, considering the nature and the direction of the rulings of the tribunals, which is going the way of one political party?
Well, I don't think it is correct for anybody to say the rulings of the tribunal have been going in the way of one political party. Now, if you look at what has been happening generally, what happened in Cross Rivers, what happened in other states that you have whether PDP or ANPP or NNPP or other political parties were returned, what the tribunals have done in those cases is to affirm the declaration that has been done by INEC. The only place where you have had an upset had been in Kano. And that is the only upset that has happened so far, which went against the declaration of INEC for a governorship election. Now, even what happened in Kano is just at the tribunal level. The other parties still have the opportunity of going to the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. So if anybody says that it's a question of a one-party thing, I don't think that is correct, because if you look at the decisions that have been handed down in some senatorial matters and House of Representative matters, you will find that it has been good for both. It has been good and bad for both parties. You have had declarations made against the APC. You have had declarations made against the PDP. You have had declarations made in favor of Labour Party in some House of Representative seats. You have had decisions even made in favor of NNPP in some areas. So I don't think that it is correct at this stage to say it is going towards a one-party state. And mind you, we are still at the level of tribunal. We have not gone to the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. So a lot of things will still change. So I do not key into that view. Now, you've said something about the issue of Gombe. You could see that, what happened in Gombe was almost similar to what happened in Benue, which we dealt with. And they were not challenging the votes of His Excellency Governor Ino Ayahaya. They were not challenging his qualification. They were challenging the arrangement of the name of the deputy governor. So if the tribunal now says, look, you did not prove it, how would that be said to be it was done that way because it's going the way of one political party? I do not think that is the way the tribunals have been operating. So far, to the best of my knowledge, it has both parties. All political parties have benefited. All political parties have been affected one way or the other, and the tribunals have had to deliver judgment based on the evidence presented to them by parties. So far, so good. And as I said, the process is still ongoing.
Well, some political parties will disagree with you, Mr. Burka, but, if things were perfect, both at the pre-election stage and at the post-election stage, with the litigations, there won't be renewed calls for constitutional amendment, particularly with the Electoral Act, especially as the 10th Assembly resumes, sitting. What are some of your recommendations in that regard, where the Electoral Act as amendment can be tweaked such that, there will be a reduction in litigations after elections?
No, I think the issue of reduction in litigation will be based on the nature of the election itself as conducted by INEC, and also the ability of politicians to accept that the people have spoken. Now, you may have the best of elections. If any of the parties feel INEC, you cannot stop the party from going to court. So when it comes to reduction of litigation in electoral matters, I hold the view that until we get to a point in which we believe that the declaration made by INEC it's an expression of the people's will, and being an expression of the people's will, politicians will respect that expression of the people's will. But if you have declarations and an individual feels that that declaration ought to go the other way, the Constitution gives him the right to approach the court. And approaching the court is the decent thing to do anywhere in the world. In the last election that we saw in the United States, we saw a sitting president in Donald Trump approaching the court to ventilate his grievance and make complaints and ventilate his grievance to say he felt that things should be done in another way. So for me, I think that when it comes to the issue of reducing electoral litigation, it depends on those two factors: having INEC deliver on its mandate correctly, and having politicians believe that what INEC has done is the true expression of the people. Once they feel that the people have rightly accepted or rejected a particular mandate, it is up to that mandate holder to seek to do things differently in the other election. Now, coming to the issue of amendment, we have had our Electoral Act amended over and over again. The Electoral Act we're using now was amended just in 2022. And there are novel provisions in that Electoral Act that we're still trying to apply, just like what you have in Section 137 of the new Electoral Act, which provides that peer non-compliance in an election is manifest on the face of the document. You don't even need witnesses to prove it. So that takes away the whole difficult task that petitioners were faced with, in which you have to call forest of witnesses to prove non-compliance. What the law says now is that if on the face of the document, the court can see non-compliance. There are other innovations that we have in the new Electoral Act. So we have not even espoused the Electoral Act enough. We have not interpreted and applied it enough. So let us allow our courts apply it enough, apply it to the best of their ability before we start talking of amendment. As it stands now, for me, I do not think that it is amendment of laws that we need. It is amendment of attitude.
Well, you may be correct that we have not tested all of the, areas of novelty in the new Electoral Act. There's also some other areas, eliciting debate. For instance, the ceiling for testing of the outcomes of elections for governorship and presidential, particularly for governorship, where some say that perhaps it should end at the Court of Appeal. And, the timeline for, the hearing of presidential election petition, which some believe should end before the swearing in of the winner that has been declared as president-elect. But, there's no time for that. We'd like to thank you very much, Mr. Matthew Burka, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, for your time and thoughts on Lunchtime Politics. Thank you very much for being on the program.
Thank you very much, Blanley, for the invitation. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll be Bukola. Thank you. Ahead of the November 11 governorship election in Imo State, a political awareness group under the aegis of Okigwe Political Consultative Assembly, Okipocha, has applauded the giant strides of the Imo State Governor Hope Uzodimma since assuming office as governor 3.5 years ago. And according to the group, the governor deserves to be re-elected into office for another 4 years to continue his good works. At a meeting in Obowo local government area of the state, the group highlights some of the policies and programs of the current administration, saying they have impacted meaningfully on indigenes of Imo North Senatorial District, popularly called Okigwe Zone, and unanimously endorsed the governor for a second term. And that sums it up on Lunchtime Politics today, as you have been served today's edition. Join us again tomorrow for another edition of the program. I am Bukola Koka. Bye for now.